is Iran going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz? I saw the president's social media posting, "Don't do it," he said, as if anybody cares anymore what this man thinks. So, enjoy gas while you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Go out and fill up your tanks, because maybe by the end of the day, A, there won't be any gas, and B, the price will be through the roof. We don't know, but this is a very dangerous situation. This isn't fun and games. This isn't a computer game. This is about a president who has taken a nation to war for no reason whatsoever.
So do you think Iran is, so there's two potential scenarios right here. Iran is responding because it has to respond. If it doesn't respond, it seems weak to its population, to the world. That's one argument. The other one is Iran wants to involve the US in a complete all-out war. Where do you think Iran's strategy is heading to at the moment?
Well, first of all, Iran didn't want to respond, because if Iran wanted to respond, Iran would have launched a preemptive strike. The United States indicted itself, with the president's own words, in the aftermath of the Israeli strike, where he used the royal we. And then he went out and bragged about how the United States and Israel had been planning this all along. So legally speaking, Iran had every right to lash out against America in the region, but it didn't, because it's not looking for a broader fight with the United States. But now it's been given no choice. And the other thing that people need to understand is that there has been a debate raging inside the Iranian government between the hardliners and more moderate elements led by the president and his foreign minister. The hardliners are winning out now. It appears that this attack is a signal that Iran is now committed to action that will cause the United States ultimately to withdraw from the Middle East. I'm not saying they'll be successful, but it appears that Iran has initiated action that would reflect that they have a strategy that is defined by that outcome.
There's reports that 3 impacts have already been reported in the Qatar base of Al Udeid. Would the US respond to this? So do you think that Iran telegraphed those plans in advance for the US preps, similar to what they did during the Soleimani retaliation? Or do you think that was a surprise? Because it doesn't seem it was a surprise. So was it US intelligence that allowed them to know in advance to shut down the airspace and be on alert and put out that alert earlier in the day? I think it was a shelter-in-place alert that was put out for citizens in Qatar. Or was that Iran in advance telling the US, so then the US does not retaliate after this?
A lot of speculation that would have to go into answering that. I don't believe Iran is in the business of causing American casualties. If they were, then this attack would have been done in a different fashion. This is a well-telegraphed attack, as you know, as you've indicated through intelligence reports, etc. And so I think this is an attack that's designed to send a signal to the United States. And maybe Iran is doing this so that they can repeat what happened with the Qasem Soleimani assassination, followed by the Iranian ballistic missile attack against al-Assad, which sort of brought that episode to a close. I think President Trump hopefully is being briefed on what the consequences of an American retaliation would be. First of all, we don't have sufficient forces in the region to do a meaningful retaliation. We could go strike targets, but what targets are we striking? And all this would do is, the Iranians have been preparing for this very conflict for 20 years. They have a plan. We don't. So we'd be playing into their hands. So they would continue to bombard bases with missiles, and we would continue to be punching holes in the ground in Iran. So hopefully the president, and in the meantime, energy security around the world goes through the roof, because Iran will shut down the Strait of Hormuz and perhaps strike oil production facilities in the region if the United States were to strike Iranian oil production facilities. And that now we're looking at a global energy crisis, which will detrimentally impact the United States as well. So I'm hopeful that the president is being briefed that this is a one of Iranian retaliation, and that if the United States just lets this lie, then it can be considered to be a trade-off. You hit us, we hit you. But the key is casualties. If Iran causes significant American casualties, it'll be impossible for a president not to respond. So let's take a look at the things that have been struck If the Iranians gave the United States sufficient warning to shelter in place, if the Iranians are striking empty hangar facilities, that might be a signal that they're just making a demonstrative move that they have to make. Let's remind everybody real quick here that the United States sent 6 B-2 bombers over Iran to bomb 3 nuclear facilities that were under full monitoring by the International Atomic Energy Agency up until recently. I think Iran just terminated their relationship with the IAEA. And the United States also fired 30 cruise missiles, and there was no justification for any of these actions. So Iran has every right under international law to retaliate, and I think that's the right that Iran is exercising right now.
No, I agree with you. I think what really matters is the intention. I think from what I see right now, I think America's intention is not to be involved in a long war. I think that would be very unpopular for Trump domestically. We already saw a bit of a split within the MAGA base prior to America's attack. So that would be my guess on the US. And when you look at Iran has avoided hitting American bases until it's being forced to at the moment. So I'd say the same thing about Iran. Iran's been hit hard by Israel, and I'd love to get your take on it in a bit. But Iran does not want to get a new enemy in this war. I think they're struggling as it is against Israel. So hopefully that's right. But as you said, there could be unintended consequences. So unintended outcomes. If Iran does cause severe casualties at the Qatari base, then obviously Trump will have no choice but to respond with a heavy hand, and that could escalate further and further. I want to take a step back towards the Strait of Hormuz. I think this is probably the biggest wild card that we have, because if that gets disrupted or shut down by Iran, that would obviously cripple the Iranian economy, but they've been pushed into a corner that would severely impact the global economy. Now, why I think this is unlikely is because Iran's biggest supporter, which is China, I think they're supporting Iran even more than Russia right now, which is busy in Ukraine. They wouldn't like the Strait of Hormuz closed. They've got I think it's about anywhere from 15 to 30, 40% of their oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So they'll be hit hard. And Russia benefits if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, because Russia's oil prices going up will help Russia. And then China will have to depend on Russia. So considering those circumstances, do you think that Iran could be forced to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, or are we getting closer to an end of the war? The nuclear facilities have been hit. The US bombed them as they needed to be able to destroy them. We're going to debate that later on. Prime Minister Netanyahu did say that the end of the war could be days away, not only in Iran, but also in Gaza, which could be a big relief, but he said this before. So there's kind of 2 possibilities here. Things that escalate, significant damage to the US base, Strait of Hormuz gets disrupted, or this is it, Iran retaliates and the war slowly winds down.
Well, first of all, we need to understand that Iran has been operating within the 4 corners of international law assiduously. And I think that surprises many people who have been speaking about Iran as a rogue nation, etc. And so when you speak of the shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, Iran would have to have legal justification to do that. For Iran to preemptively shut down the Strait of Hormuz would be a violation of international law. So I think there has to be a cause and effect activity taking place, so that things would have to happen for Iran to shut down the Strait of Hormuz that haven't happened yet. The other thing I think we need to understand is that the Iranians have been engaged in significant diplomacy with both Russia and China, and Pakistan, by the way. I believe in the Security Council today, Russia, China, and Pakistan have put forward a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire. That was done with the approval of Iran. And so diplomacy is in the air. The other thing that's curious is that this attack comes after the foreign minister Araghchi went to Moscow and met with Vladimir Putin. I can guarantee you the Iranians said we have to retaliate. And Vladimir Putin apparently did not raise meaningful objections to it. And if we're looking at a potential vector for Iranian intentions to be sent to the United States, we may have to look no further than Russia, meaning that having briefed Putin on the plans, Putin and Araghchi discussed potential outcomes. If the Iranians said, look, we have no choice but to strike back and strike back hard, especially if we're going to dampen the ardor in the IRGC for more military action. There's many in the IRGC that want to go all the way, that say this is the moment. Let's finish this now. We're committed. The president of Iran and his foreign minister aren't cut from that same piece of cloth. So it seems to me that an argument can be made that Iran did telegraph this attack, and that the vector for that might have been Russia. Iran also knows that the Chinese don't want the Strait shut. China has come out and said, we're not in favor of this. This is not what we want. This would be very disruptive to the world economy. So there's a chance here, a window of opportunity, that if the United States rides out these attacks and says, okay, tit for tat, we're done with this. Israel today announced to Iran formally that they're ready to stop this war right now. Iran responded back, it is not yet time, meaning there's more that Iran wants to do.
Yeah, that response surprised me.
It's not surprising to me. Iran is resetting the deterrence standard. When this war ends, Israel will have to understand that it can never again strike Iran, or the response will be disproportionate. Right now, Israel believes that that's sort of a trade-off, that they got rid of a nuclear program. That's debatable, and they can live with that. But from the Iranian perspective, it is Israel had the audacity to attack us, and that can never happen again. Israel has to understand that the price they will pay is overwhelmingly in disfavor of Israel, and I don't know if Iran has made that point yet. So I see the window open for conflict, but I also see if Iran can solve the American conundrum, meaning how do we get out of this without expanding the conflict with the United States, that first close the door with America, then you can shut down the conflict with Israel, and the world may get able to breathe a sigh of relief, because the worst outcome would be shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, shutting down oil production, and the horrific economic consequences. So look, we're in a very dangerous period of time, a lot of what ifs and a lot of speculation going on. But if you go off of past behavior, there is a possibility, indeed a probability, that what we're seeing right now is a tragic act of theater. And all sides are looking for an off-ramp out of this conflict, because I don't think anybody benefits from taking this to the next level.
Yeah, an update for you, Scott, is Qatar said there's been no reports of deaths or injuries. So that removes off the table the possibility of unintended consequences from the attack. That's number one. Number two is Iran said they've launched the same number of missiles as the US launched towards exactly the same amount of bombs that the US launched towards the third. I think you read it at the bottom as well. That's the second piece.
Symbolic act.
Exactly. Very, very symbolic. Exactly what you'd expect from a